All it needs is just a little work.
The Taco Bell is available for rent beside Mom and Daddy's house if you know anyone that's interested.
3200.
Yes, something ungodly in that. Huh? The Taco Bell beside Mom and Daddy's house?
We have a Taco Bell house on our
You know what
street,
I'm
too.
talking about,
Yeah.
don't you? Yeah. You got a Taco Bell house too, yeah, at the corner.
There's one down on Riverside, it's 1800.
It's actually called Spanish Eclectic. It's-
See, they're from Arizona, and when he told me that's what he wanted, I was like, I don't know that you're ever gonna get that much. Have you all heard of a place called Corner 16? It is wonderful.
Delicious.
It is so delicious, and
Home cooking. Where is it?
it is on Middlebrook Pike. It's called Corner 16, but it's owned by the people who own Calhoun's. The food is remarkable, but when we got on the website, the manager's
I
name.
used to.
Yes. And I'm like, Corner 16
have to go.
Calhoun's?
What kind of food is it?
It's kind of like Southern comfort food. I got fried chicken with gravy and tomato pie, and
Ate that? You ate?
I did eat tomato pie. Yes, are you proud?
I'm so proud.
Yes, I did. Well, it's kind of like pizza, but
You don't take food to your mother all the time.
yeah, I feed her every night. But it's not good stuff. I mean, it's like a turkey and Swiss from get go. I mean, it's not like home cooked stuff.
I bet,
We're ready, Dr. Bible. Hey, she put me up to it.
if you went to the city, they have food.
Yes, they do, and I do that sometimes.
I'm gonna go back and unlike it now.
My boss made me do that, by the way. Oh.
I still got 30 seconds.
Did yours pull up okay? Mine's going slow.
Anything you need to add or delete?
No, we are good.
Yeah, I got into the school's website easy, but it's not.
It's spinning. I can share this with you. I think you're all up. Joey, did you get pulled up?
Been better.
You good?
I'm done. All right.
Mine's spinning, but we'll share.
All righty. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right.
All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call our meeting to order. First item up on our agenda is approval of the agenda as presented. Does anybody have any additions or deletions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, we move to our consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, we move into our financial report for February with Mr. Ray.
Everybody should have the financial report for February 28th, the 8-month period end, in their packet. Just a couple things. The general purpose fund statement you have before you, I feel presents a complete and accurate picture of all the activity for the 8-month period. And did a little analysis of the monthly revenues and expenditures. I did a month-over-month analysis and a year-over-year analysis, just to, it's another form of percentage. You calculate a standard deviation, For example, our monthly expenditures average this year $715,000 a month. The standard deviation is 72,000. That's 10% of your average. On the revenue side, we are at a 30% standard deviation. What that means is how far away from the average are we? With our revenues, it makes sense that we have a higher percentage away from the average. For instance, your property tax comes in usually in about a 3-month period. You get about 90% of it. So your revenues, you might have some big ups and some big downs. Your monthly expenditures are relatively flat. So what do you look at with that standard deviation is compare it month over month and year over year, and there shouldn't be a great change, and there isn't for us. That supports what I just said about the statements being complete and accurate. I know that's a lot, but on the federal project side, the expenditures, if they're allowable, are really the responsibility of the grant managers and supervisors. What the financial statements that you have tell you is that we are being reimbursed in a timely manner. We spend the money, it's allowable, we get our money fairly quickly, within 30 to 45 days from the federal government. Some more good news. On the cafeteria side, if you have your financial statements, you'll see it's page 4 in the financial statements, but it's the cafeteria. On the actual column, which is your second column, we have a surplus of $15,000 in the cafeteria as of February 28th. So for the past couple months, I've been leaning towards we're probably going to break even. Well, having a surplus really supports that assertion that we will probably break even, plus or minus $10,000. A note on that is last year, we transferred $74,000 from the general purpose fund to support the cafeteria. Thus far this year, we've transferred $0, and we have a surplus. Last year, we transferred $74,000, and we lost money still. So improvements on the cafeteria side. So it'd be my recommendation that you approve the financial statements.
All right, we have a recommendation from Mr. Ray to approve our financial statements for the month of February. I'll entertain a motion to approve our financial statement as presented. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any further questions, comments for Mr. Ray regarding February's financial statement? Hearing none, Kim, could I have a roll call vote, please?
David Quinn.
Yes.
Peggy Webster.
Yes.
Tim Bible.
Yes.
Merle Price. Joey Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ray. Moving on to new business. We have our salary schedules, which is Appendix C. Kelly, could you
I
review
can.
those?
Scott and I have been working diligently on what we feel like that we would be able to do in terms of salaries for next year, knowing that teacher salaries is one of our priorities to continue to compensate the hard work that our teachers do. So what we are proposing tonight, we are very pleased with. We are proposing, we do our increases a little bit differently than what you see other systems do. So what other systems might do is say they're giving teachers a 3% raise, they look at the steps on the salary schedule, and everybody gets a 3% raise. What that does over time is you are rewarding your veteran teachers a lot more than you are your newer teachers. And and then the spread between the newer and the older, and the spread between your different levels becomes very, very inconsistent, and it doesn't follow a formula or a pattern. And so what we do is we like to recognize whether you're a 3-year teacher or whether you're a 22-year teacher, you're all working very, very hard. So we like to give everyone an equal raise and then let the steps reward the seniority. And so what we are proposing to you tonight is a $2,000 raise on all of the steps. And so what teachers would get would be a $2,000 raise plus their step increase. And so what that looks like is an average of about a 4% raise for teachers. And depending on where you are on the scale, sometimes that might be like a 4.12% raise, it might be a 3.79% raise, but on average, it is a 4% raise. And this is the most significant raise that we have been able to provide our teachers since I've been director. And according to Scott, this is the largest raise that we've been able to give our teachers since he's been at Clinton City Schools. And so I think as we are looking at our neighboring districts and continuing to be competitive, is the salary, does that put us where we want to be? Absolutely not. But it at least isn't a step in the right direction, and I feel like that with the governor's proposed lack of funding for public education in terms of teacher salaries, he is doing somewhat, but it is not what we've seen Haslam do in the past. So to be able to offer this raise, given those conditions, I think is something we can all be very proud of. So what we did was we did look at some comparisons, which I've sent out to you all, and I think that we're starting to make a gap in it. I think it's going to be a multi-year commitment that we need to make. So certainly 1 year at 4% is not where we want to start, but I think it's a good effort to move towards the right direction, knowing that we want to continue to make this a priority in future funding years. And we, unlike other districts as well, many districts you'll see give raises to just your certified people, and then some systems will go years upon years without classified ever getting a raise. And we firmly believe that everybody that shows up contributes to the success of the school. So if we give teachers a raise, we're going to give classified a raise as well. So a $2,000 raise for each of the steps for certified and $1,000 for the classified. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I know it's been something that we've been working on for many, many years to try and even out our salary schedules, and Scott and Kelly both, my hat's off to you. It is a large endeavor. You all have done a great job. We still have a little more to do, but we take the first big step and we're heading in the right direction. So thank you for all that you all have done to get us there where we are competitive and stand above those that are around us. Any questions or comments regarding our proposed salary schedules?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve our salary schedules as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. My wife being a teacher, I do have to say that I am voting on this on behalf of all of our teachers we have worked for many, many years, even before she was a teacher here, to try and equate our schedules for our salaries. So this vote is not due to personal reasons. This vote is, from myself, is due to all the teachers who work so hard and deserve a raise. All right, hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Kim, could we have a?
We do.
We do? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
David Queener.
Yes.
KK Webster.
Yes.
Tim Bible.
Yes.
Merle Price. Joey Smith.
Motion carries. Moving on, next up, we have our first reading for our budget for the 2019-2020 school year.
I'll call Scott Ray back up to the podium for this. He has been working tirelessly on this budget and has done a great job for the first reading, and so I'm going to call him up and let him summarize. Basically, there's no major changes, no major surprises with the budget, but I'll let him kind of hit some of the highlights.
Well, it's nice and boring, as a budget should be for a school system. There's really no significant changes from what we're currently doing. There's no significant changes from what we did last year. In my memo to you, you can see that we've built in the 4% salary increase, so the budget does reflect the salary schedules that you have approved. How did we fund that? Well, we're hoping to get some, I shouldn't say hoping, we will get some increases in state and local revenues. And then a little bit of a reduction in our expenditures for building improvements. So that it does allow us this year to give, I guess, what I would consider a significant salary increase. Your federal projects fund, again, that is a grant we receive the allocation from the State Department that manages the grant for the federal government. It is what they tell us we're going to get, and we plan to expend that appropriately according to the grant requirements. Those allocations are not in yet, so I've pretty much just laid in what we got last year for grants. So those numbers will change, probably not until after the second reading, but as we get information, we'll just present it to you through a budget amendment. Cafeteria fund, it reflects a little bit of a change in our revenue and expense formula, resulting from our continued participation with the Food Service Management Company. I don't have a proposed meal change, price change for you yet. So the prices we currently charge for breakfast and lunch are laid into the budget. I will say that we do need to, that's the next thing on my agenda to look at is any required price increases. As you'll remember that the USDA does require certain increases. So we'll have to look at that, hopefully before the second reading. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. I did give you, each of you, a summary page in front of each budget, just a one-page summary of the whole budget. It's a little easier to look at than page by page. But if you want to take a few minutes and glance at it, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
One note that I do want to make with regards to federal project funds is that there is discussion about title funds and general federal funds being cut right now, so we don't know what that will look like. But we also have been told by the State Department that the overall Tennessee census is down. And so that will not only affect Clinton City's federal allocations, but could potentially affect everybody across the state. So we've kind of went with what we've had in the past, but just a caveat knowing that that could go up or it could go down. It's too early in the game for us to know that yet. But we always tap out those budget amendments once the allocations are finalized in the fall. And then if you look at the summary page that Scott did for you, just in an effort to be as transparent as possible, if you take a look at the bottom line there where it says the budgeted surplus, that was an intended surplus because we know that we are RFPing that crisis alert system right now. We don't know what that price is going to tap out. We also are looking at, we will need to purchase social studies textbooks next year. We don't know quite what that price is going to be yet. And then we're looking at a phonics program for K through 2 that is an explicit phonics program. And so we left that surplus kind of there so that we could let this RFP play out and see what that crisis alert system was going to cost, and then kind of see where we stand with our textbook needs as well. So that was a purposeful surplus at this time that will be rolled back into the budget as soon as we have some more information.
One other thing to, I guess, consider is, we never talk about our balance sheet. All we talk about is our income statement, our revenues, and our expenditures. And if you ignore your balance sheet, that's what's going to come back and bite you. So I did I told you I would do a monthly or quarterly review of our cash flow because we have $2 million invested with the city's interest-bearing account. To date, I think our balance is $2,006,000. So we're making some money on that. Much better than the $0 we made when it was in our bank account. From a cash flow point of view, the largest item on our balance sheet is cash. I anticipate us being able to maybe add to that investment at the end of the year. Maybe about $500,000 more to keep building that up. Call that our rainy day fund. The other item on our balance that's not even on the balance sheet is our debt. Because the debt isn't really ours. We're paying for it, but it's not on our balance sheet because it's in the name of the city. We will have a balance at June 30th, 2020. So I did this analysis for the whole year, our budget year. it's going to be at June 30th, 2020, $1.3 million is our debt balance. At June 30th, 2019, it's $1.56 million. So we have $221 in principal reduction and about $40,000 in interest every year. But we are in no debt is longer than 7 years at this point, so we're working our way. So after we make maybe increase our rainy day fund, we can start looking at doubling down on our debt payments and getting that down. Any questions?
Everything that I've read and looked through, Scott, it looks good. You did a really good job, you, central office, everybody that helped put this together. Very concise, very well thought out. And thank you for your hard work and your effort. Any questions for Mr. Ray regarding our 2019-2020 proposed budget? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve on first reading our 2019-2020 school budget as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, anything at all for Mr. Ray or Kelly? Hearing none, Kim, could we have a roll call vote, please?
David Queener,
Yes.
KK Webster,
Yes.
Tim Bobble,
Yes.
Merle Price, Joey Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries. Scott,
Thank
thank you. Very well done. Moving on, we've got two policies to approve on first and second reading. It is our tobacco-free schools and our promotion and retention. Kelly, if I believe when we had talked, these are state-issued
Yes, these are-
mandates that we're folding into what we
Correct.
currently have.
Correct. These are TSBA recommended policies based on Tennessee Code annotated. They're really dry, very clear-cut policies that, with the tobacco-free schools, we had the policy in existence, they've just added vaping. And so they needed to update that policy to include vaping. Then with the promotion and retention, a couple of caveats and we do this anyway, but now the state law says that we are required to let parents know by February the 1st if we are even considering retention. We actually have a procedure in place where we let our parents know that in January. So we were meeting this law prior to it becoming a TSBA policy. The other thing that we will be continuing to, or starting to do in a more formal way this year is that if we do a retention, then we have to have a written intervention plan that clearly defines how this second year in this grade level is going to be different than the first year. And then that plan has to be presented to the parents 10 days prior to school starting. And so that will be something that we will be implementing this year. We do not do a whole lot of retentions in Clinton City. While there are certain instances where it is appropriate, overall research shows that it's not an effective strategy. So there are some children that it does benefit, and we certainly have been known to do that, but it's not something that we overuse and do on a frequent basis. But those are two updated policies that we bring to you tonight.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Kelly regarding the policies? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve Appendix E on first and second reading, school board policies as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on into reports and information, we have reports from principals and supervisors.
Okay, we'll start with Miss Jenna Sharp at Clinton Elementary School, if you want to come on up. We are lucky enough that at least all of our principals are well. We can't say the same thing for teachers and students, but right now all of our principals are well.
We're glad it's spring break, just to get away from the poor sick children, let them rest. In PLC meetings for the last month or so, we've been working on, working with teachers to, in 3 through 6, see what their plan to prepare for TN Ready. So most of them have made it almost through the pacing guide. and they're going back and they're spiraling their standards, and they've looked at their standards mastery to see where the needs were, and they are going to focus on those. And then we also have practice tests from the state that they are going to administer. In K through 2, we have been working on portfolio and strengthening resources and plans. We are still going strong in our school-wide iReady incentive. We have so many ninjas on one side that we have tried to move today. But the student pass rate of the iReady lessons, they have grown so much. So that's going really well. And then again, they get prizes for each 10 lessons that they pass. So our fundraiser ended this week. Also, our goal was $15,000, and after counting all the money today, we raised over $9,100, which we think is great just for donations. I think the illness did have something to do with that, but the kids are really excited about this fundraiser. We did have to spend a little bit, and I don't think it was quite 10% on the prizes that they get, but it kind of gives back to the kids and gives them something to look forward to. So thank you all to everyone that came to Empty Bowls Night. We raised a little over $4,000, so we had more parents eat this year, but we are going to challenge our teachers to be really super creative next year, so we're already thinking in that direction. Dates for us: on March the 26th, we are going to have kindergarten roundup at CES. The 28th, we will have our RTI meeting. The 29th, we will have an assembly at 2. The 2nd is our art show. I'm sure Kelly will talk a little bit more about that. The 11th, we are going to reschedule our parent conferences, and we will also have a STEM night in April. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Sharp.
you, Ms. Sharp.
Right. Monica?
We have been very busy in the month of February and March. We also had Empty Bowls Night in February on the 21st. We raised over $400 at North Clinton. I think we had a fewer number of families eat, but we had more families participate in the auction and overall purchasing the bowls. We had our parent conference night on the 26th, and we had that afternoon, we had some school safety training that district-wide we had all gone to, and that's kind of really good for us to do annually. We had Lieutenant Miller who had come with us, and he also then talked to the SROs as well. We just kind of trying to get on the same page with some safety factors. On the 27th, we wound up, we had started a schoolstore.com fundraiser. We wound up with teachers receiving $955 to those individual teachers where families had given gift cards through this fundraiser so that the teachers could purchase on online school supply store supplies for their classroom. So we received the first round of those packages that teachers had purchased some of them today. So I was hefting these big, huge bags of supplies, classroom supplies out. So they've been shopping with their money. The school itself has only raised $113 from it, but that's okay. The money's going in the teachers' pockets so that they can spend for their classroom for other students, and so they're buying games and other kinds of educational tools for them as well. March 1st, we had our read day. It was a big success. We had about 30 readers from the community, all over the community, and the kids really enjoyed it and got to have a pajama day with that as well. We had our individual spring photos on March 6th. And then on the 7th of March, we had a local church representative had contacted me and said Oak Ridge High School was having a fundraiser, and their softball team was going to buy tickets, however many tickets that we thought our families might need for a free breakfast, anybody who we thought would go. And so we had, this community member had brought in 11 different tickets for some of our families to go to Aubrey's and eat breakfast one Saturday morning, just as a courtesy for some of our families. So it was really nice. On the 8th of March, Milestone Church, which is formerly the Antioch Church down below where they kind of partner with us and come to our PTCC meetings and are a great community resource. They called us and said, what could you all use? And we said, well, let's see, tissues, hand sanitizer, Clorox wipes.
More hand sanitizer.
Yes.
Lots more.
So they brought up laundry baskets full of that, one basket for each homeroom. And so as much as we have worked the tissues and the sanitizer, we still got taken down a little bit with some stuff, but it allowed the teachers and the students to try to work to keep everything, keep noses wiped and hands clean as much as possible. And then we had a surprise call from Ridge Church in Oak Ridge, and they called and said, what can y'all use? And we said, well, I don't know, let's see. So she listed off all kinds of things that they would be willing to collect for us. So we just said, could you supply, use some hygiene supplies and things like just soap, shampoo, deodorant, floss, toothpaste, toothbrushes. Sometimes it's just, handy to have those things. So they delivered those the other day as well. So that was just very nice, just a lot of community outreach for it. And we're very, very thankful to both Milestone and Ridge Church for that as well. We are having an iReady Spring Break Camp this coming week, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 11. They're going to do some second grade reading to try to boost some of the reading in second grade during that week. On the 26th, we're going to have our kindergarten roundup at 4:30, and on the 27th, we're going to have our Community Pre-K Advisory Council, which consists of voluntary pre-K teachers and staff, school officials, other school officials, parents, community members, to show that we're continuing to meet the needs of our highly qualified voluntary pre-K program. And then we will be having a STEM night on the 28th from 4:30 to 6. We're going to have Mr. Glasshauser is going to have K through 3 do some individual music little programs and then intermittently throughout the evening, and then he will have the Orff Ensemble perform as well. So we're looking forward to a lot of community events and lots of family gatherings.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Rowe. And Ms. Bonesteel.
I know that you've already heard all about Empty Bowls Night, but I do want to say thank you. We had a parent at our Empty Bowls Night that actually contacted me and said last year because of I think it was a baseball game, her son was unable to attend Empty Bowls Night, and someone donated money for him to have his bowl. So she contacted me this year and said that she would like a donation to donate money to our school for all the students whose bowls were not purchased. And she asked me how many were left. So she wrote us a check for $175 so that all of our students had their bowls purchased. So I just want to say thank you to that parent. That was really thoughtful. But she said it meant a lot to her child last year that somebody would do that for him. So she wanted to pass it on and give that back. So thank you to her. And then we kicked off March with our annual Read Day on March 1st. And we had a super fun day. Our kids love it. I love getting to celebrate reading, and all our teachers dressed up in costumes, and it was just a fun day. On March 4th, we had spring pictures, and on the 5th, we had ELA PLCs where we talked about plans for getting ready for Tennessee Ready. And our lower grade teachers, K through 2, talked about some anecdotal notes that they had been taking with their reading groups. On March 7th, we had our annual family STEAM night, and we call it STEAM instead of STEM because we like to tie in art with some artwork on that night. And again, we partnered with ORAU, and they set up several different booths in our gym, really fun activities. I actually got to work at they call it the foam gnome booth, where the students they get to mix 2 different polymers, and it creates this really big foam reaction that they get to take home with them, and it was super fun. So you saw all these kids carrying around these big foam things in cups that looked like cotton candy, but it was fun to see their faces when it reacted. But they do that all no cost for us, and they come and set everything up and bring all the supplies. So I want to say thank you to ORAU for partnering with us, and we served dinner for our families in the cafeteria, and our Orff Ensemble performed that night for everybody. On the 13th this week, the Rotary Club came and gave out dictionaries to all our South Clinton 3rd graders. And I always challenge the 3rd graders to find a word in their dictionary that they think I don't know the definition of and try to stump me. So I have a huge stack of words on my desk. So they're challenging me. So I've got to go through those and see if somebody can stump me on a word this year. That's always fun. And then on March 26th, we have our monthly RTI meetings.
Thank you, Ms. Bonesteel.
Thank you. That concludes our principal reports.
All right.
Could you get back to us and tell me how many
stumped, how many words
I
stumped
will, and
you?
I'll let you know what words they were.
All right, if you'll take a note also and look at the information. The Teachers Banquet is coming up on Tuesday, April the 16th. Kim, have you heard from everybody on that one? Okay. Please get with Kim after the board meeting tonight if you know if you'll be coming and/or if you'll have a guest. Also, the Support Staff Banquet is coming up, and that will be April the 9th. And once again, if you know your schedule, please let Kim know after the board meeting today. And moving on from there, we do have sixth grade graduation coming up May the 23rd. And that's everything as I can see it here on the reports for information there. And we'll move on into our director's
I wanted
report.
to ask her something. I thought we were gonna move from the Ritz.
We, actually, we went and visited the community center and the gym, and we explored that, and after we spent, Danny, Stacy Lawler, and I went and spent about 45 minutes in the gym trying to see logistically how we were gonna pull that off. And, it was gonna require intensive planning, when you look at, the video that we use, because we're able to take advantage of the movie projector and the sound system that they have in there. So trying to recreate the sound in the gym to the quality that we can have at the Ritz. And then there was a few concerns that for some of our children, going to the Ritz is kind of a special event for them. So, still, we've got in the back of our mind that we might eventually move it to the community center, but I think it was going to take a little bit more logistical planning and a little bit more expense to get it up and running than if we just continued to use the Ritz for this year. Oh, it's my turn, isn't it? Well, moving on.
It's our lighting is terrible.
The lighting is terrible, it is.
For pictures.
Oh, yeah. The fluorescent lights. Okay, so you have your director's report in front of you. I do have some goodies to hand out to you today. As you know, or you may or may not have heard, that Governor Lee presented in his State of the State address that he is going to be donating, or that he is putting $25 million into what he calls the creation of education savings accounts. And so I want to spend a little bit of time. Joey Curtis and I went to TSBA Day on the Hill. We had great conversations with Randy McNally and with Representative Reagan regarding these. But I want to give you what we shared with them, just as you are talking to the community. And for people who might be watching on TV, a lot of inaccuracies are being said about these educational savings accounts. And basically, it is vouchers in another package. So I want to share with you what we shared with them in Nashville, just in case you are approached by a community person. We can all speak from the same language. First of all, it was very telling when we visited with them. Lieutenant Governor McNally was very, very surprised to see some of our accolades that we have at Clinton City Schools. And so I think if nothing else became of that meeting, just being able to share with him the successes that we have had in Clinton City Schools, especially on last year's Tea and Ready, he was very, very blown away by that. The second thing in your packet is a Clinton City Schools funding pyramid. And one of the things is, as they're talking about educational savings account, that they say is it's only taking the state portion of funds away from schools. So you look on average, most school systems spend about $10,000, and this is an average on each child. But that comes from several different pots of money. It comes from the BEP money, which is the state money. It comes from federal money, and then it comes from state and local money. Your taxes, property taxes, plus maintenance of effort. Well, one of the things that they have said about educational savings account is basically they would take the state portion of those funds, which would be between let's just say $5,500. They would put that into an account for a parent, and then they could use that money how they see fit for their child's education. So it could be private schools, it could be charter schools, it could even be homeschool. And so as we open up that whole door, we look at, when we start pressing parents on truancy, the very, very first thing they want to do is pull their child and homeschool them. And so now if we're going to incentivize that with money, then 2 or 3 years later, we possibly get that student back in Clinton City Schools and they're behind, and then we have to spend our resources trying to get them back up to par. Now, that is not to say that homeschool is not for some parents, because it is, and that's not a slam on homeschool whatsoever. There are a large number of families who do it correctly, and I firmly believe that you have to make the choice that you think is best for you and your family, whether it be private schools, charter schools, public schools, or homeschools. But I'm very, very against using public funds to fund private entities and private interests. And so one of the things that they're saying is it's just going to take away the state portion, and that's impossible. You can't do that, because everything on this pyramid, all funding is determined either by our average daily membership or our average daily attendance. So if our average daily membership goes down, our state funding decreases, but then our federal funding is going to also decrease. And then when it comes to, if our membership is down, our attendance is going to be down, which determines the tax split. And so we would possibly lose out on property tax and sales tax depending on how it affected Oak Ridge and Anderson County. And so we spent a lot of time with McNally and Reagan trying to inform them that that isn't an accuracy when you say we're only touching one pot of the many pots of funding, because it will affect every pot. So we were hoping that visual would kind of make a difference there.
Did they get it?
I was really, yes, I feel like, and Joey can attest, but I felt like that both conversations were very fruitful, and they listened, and I think McNally, you could tell he was really processing what we were saying. Now, how that turns out in the end, I don't know. Then we just told the story of the impact of ESAs, is what you'll hear them called, on Clinton City Schools, and we told the story of North Clinton in the next one. So if you average that, on average $10,000 per kid, in a small school like North Clinton, if we had 5 students take advantage of these vouchers, then we would lose $50,000, which is a teacher. But all of those 5 kids are not going to come from first grade or second grade. They're going to come from a variety of different grades, and we still have to have a 1st through 6th grade teacher. And so what that does is it's draining us of our public funds, and then we have to come up as a school board and as a city how we're going to fund that position since the state money has been taken away. And so we talked a little bit about that. And then the third and final flyer that we went over with them is just the unintended consequences, because I don't think, no one's going to argue that every child deserves a right to go to an effective school. I mean, I think all of us sitting here would say every child deserves to go to an effective public school. But draining money out of those schools is not going to be the answer. And so you're looking at the private schools, charter schools have a different level of accountability. They get to determine their standards. They get to determine their curriculum. They get to determine their testing. And so you're comparing apples and oranges when you say who is more successful over the others, because they don't play by the same rules that we play. Not that it's bad. They're private for a reason, and they serve a much needed population. But if they go through, then we all need to be on the same playing field and have the same level of accountability. And then, so it talks about some other unintended consequences. And so I just wanted you all to have a copy of what we discussed on TSBA Day on the Hill. And what is being proposed at this point is that it would be $25 million reoccurring in the budget, but it would not go into effect until 2021. And then by that point, they would have $75 million in a pot to start it. And they're saying at this point it would start only in failing schools and only for low-income students. But if we recall, when charter schools started with failing schools and low-performing districts, and now it's open, all across the state. And so once that door is open, we know where that is going to go. So just wanted you to have that information, and we'll keep you updated on what we hear about that.
I just want to point out, this is a well-put-together packet, and I just love the color. We never get anything with color, and I just wanted to point out that is so appreciated.
Did it not make the information pop
it
out?
popped out at me, and I really liked
You will visually
that.
remember the pyramid, won't you?
Comes at a cost.
Could you just say that one more time, Dr. Bible? Danny, would you like to come up to the podium so that you can hear?
Thank,
That was planned.
thank you for scheduling these prints on a day when Danny was out of the office.
No doubt.
It is special paper. Compliments of C&D Printing. Charlie Lane took care of us, and we even put it on special glossy paper. Well, while we're talking about colored paper, let me hand you another
Oh,
piece
wow.
of colored paper as Danny's having his heart attack in the back of the room. We have received, this is an annual that we usually get at the end of February, 1st of March, but it is the document that tells us our weighted full-time equivalent average daily attendance comparison with the three school systems within Anderson County. So this is what determines our property and sales tax split. And so what I did, I use this same document every year just so that you can see kind of where we're going. But it has the 2017-18 numbers on there, as well as it should say 18-19 right there. So I apologize if that didn't get changed. But the second set is 18-19. And so as you can see, we went down by 0.2%. So we went from 1,105 weighted daily attendance to 1,074. And we anticipated that to happen. Our enrollment is slightly down this year just because we really held firm with some transfers that weren't taking attendance seriously. So we probably denied more transfers this year than we ever have, which I think was a good decision. But so that did represent a 0.2 drop within our weighted full-time equivalent average daily attendance. According to Scott Ray, of course, I had him run some numbers for us, what that meant for us, and he used his wonderful accounting term NCM, that it's not really considered material. And so while it will be a slight drop, it's not going to hit us quite as hard as what I feared that it would hit us this year. But as you can see, Oak Ridge City, they are up this year by 0.88%. And their enrollment did increase this year, according to Bruce, by 1 to 200 students. So just wanted you to have that, but now that we have that information, Scott feels confident that our funding with the property tax and sales tax will be fairly consistent this year compared to last year. So any questions on that? Okay, so a couple of more announcements. The City of Clinton officially closed on the 2 lots behind Clinton Elementary, so that now belongs to us. And so what we will do is, the plan has kind of changed with our parking lots, depending on, what parking or what lots we have acquired. But as we have acquired this one, Scott has done some initial analysis and strongly feels, and I agree with him, that we probably need to develop that lot first. It's closest to Clinton Elementary. It's the flattest, and it would have the least amount of drainage issues that we would have to deal with. So we will begin to get a quote on demolishing that house. We will demolish that house, probably will not demolish the gray house just yet. We are actually using the storage there to store some of our lawnmowers and things. And so the plan at this point is to get a bid to demolish that house and then to begin working with the city to develop parking in those 2 lots and then the additional lot where we've already torn down the house. So we would develop that whole site. And so we're working on that. I'm going to skip the next one until last. As you know, the Clinton Rotary Club distributed our dictionaries this week, and the students were always excited to get their very own dictionary, and so we appreciate their support that they provide. And then I wrote my director's report yesterday before we realized we were going to have to shut down school. So this morning, our Dream It, Do It teams were supposed to give their presentations. We have 4 6th grade Dream It, Do It teams, and they do this in conjunction with the chamber. But they've created an interactive website based on their industry tour that they went on in November. And they were going to present those interactive websites to the education workforce of the chamber today for awards. And so we will reschedule that for a time at a later date once we can get everybody well. As far as kindergarten roundup goes, we're going to do that a little bit differently this year. In the past, we've gathered all students at the Clinton Community Center. We put them through a screening, and we just really sat down and analyzed, and the screening instruments that are out there to give a screening in the spring, and then they go home for 4 months and come back in the fall. That data was not really, while you could initially use it, but now that we're having all kindergartners come and see them and do some initial testing before we divide into homerooms, we really were spending a lot of time capturing that data that we did not find was necessarily useful to us in the fall because it was so outdated. And then the kids are always excited to come to the school, and they want to see the school, and parents want to see the school. So we're going to do it a little bit differently this year, and we're going to hold one roundup evening on March 26th from 4:30 to 6:30, and that's going to be held at each one of the elementary schools. And so they will actually come and get to see actual school personnel. They'll actually get to meet their principal. They'll get to ask questions. They'll get to turn in all their paperwork, and then we will hold an additional open house in May for students to come back and actually tour the classroom, tour the schools, and get oriented with the schools. The Clinton City Schools Annual Art Show is going to be once again held at the Kincaid House. Melissa Charles is always so lovely to donate her venue for both us and Anderson County to hold our art shows there. It's going to be from 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock, and the theme this year is Appalachian Heritage. And so we're going to do the shuttles and run the shuttles from the fairgrounds again this year. And we're going to do a special shuttle from North Clinton to the venue for a portion of the evening as well. Students are going to be at the gazebo once again doing musical acts, and we also will have a storyteller this year that's going to come and do a storytelling. And I tell you, it warmed our hearts. It was a beautiful night last year, and kids were sitting on the lawn, and the kids were playing music, and it was just a wonderful night. So we look forward to adding the storyteller. But something unique that they have done that we are super excited about is Jamie Jordan and Brian Jordan have helped Allison Swanner and Ashley Webb create the framework for the big barn quilts, the wooden barn quilts that are on the barns and the Appalachian Quilt Trail. Well, she researched the specs for that, and we have actually created our own Appalachian wooden quilt, and the kids have created it. And so there'll be 2 of the squares will be Clinton Elementary, 1 will be south and 1 will be north, and the kids have actually made the pieces. And so we will transport all the pieces to Kincaid House the night before. We will put it together, and it is actually going to be the backdrop by the gazebo as the kids are performing, and then that will be auctioned off at a later date. And whoever purchases it can actually display it and know that it meets the criteria for the Appalachian Quilt Trail. So yeah, so we're super excited about that. They've worked really hard on that. And then, of course, our classified banquet on Tuesday, April the 9th. Our Teacher of the Year banquet on April the 16th. And then our Blaze Bowling has been a big hit. We've got 32 bowlers across the 3 schools. And there again will warm your heart to go to the bowling alley and see, all the kids. We put them into teams, and so North kids are playing with Clinton kids, and South Clinton kids are playing with North kids, and they're helping each other, take score. And Coach Thatcher is doing a tremendous job teaching them how to keep score. And the first day, I will admit that I went and helped someone who had gotten a spare, and I was feeling pretty confident about it. So I went to Coach Thatcher and said, "You might want to go check my math. It's been a while since, we went, you remember we used to go bowling when we were in the 5th and 6th grade." And she went over and,
Electronically.
yes,
You can do it on
yeah, do it, and we're making them do it on hand too. And I had done it incorrectly, so I was corrected and I was fired from my, assistant job. But uniquely, one of our North Clinton mamas went up to Coach Thatcher at the end and said, "Can I take home a couple of practice sheets? I want to practice scoring and teach my kid how to score before next week." And so it's been a really neat thing, and we really appreciate the city partnering with us on that. It's on Wednesdays, and it's going to happen for the next, let's see, they did it this Wednesday, so they have 6 more times. And so they start at 3:15 to 4:30. So if you are in the area and want that to warm your heart, it will certainly warm your heart. And then we are starting an official track program for 1st through 6th graders. Coach Curley is going to lead that, and that will kick off at the right after spring break. And so she will see them through the end of the year, and then they will be prepared to join Knox Youth Athletics and run 4 track meets if the parents choose to do that. And then just a couple of dates, T and Ready's right around the bend, and so we'll be giving our writing assessment on April the 16th, and then we'll begin our subject testing on April 23rd, and we should have that testing completed by the end of April, so May will be a test-free, or at least a state test-free year, or month. So then finally, the last thing that I have to give you today is we're a little bit late getting this out this year, but here is your official Clinton City Schools annual report. And so every year, we provide you this information. This is not necessarily related to a school year, it's more related to a calendar year of 2018. I really appreciate Charlie Lane from C&D putting these together for us and in the book format. But what it will do is it takes you through each individual school first. So it starts with Clinton Elementary and then moves to North and then moves to South. And it just shows a little bit of test data. And then the principals actually wrote this portion of the annual report, just telling areas of strength and then areas that they are focusing on for this coming year. And then as you move on, certainly we're not going to take time to look at all this, but I know that you'll be laying in bed reading this riveting stuff as you go to sleep tonight. But then it moves to system-wide reports where we focus on curriculum and instruction, technology, maintenance and facilities, special ed, human resources, school safety. And so we hit all of the different departments and kind of tell you things that we've accomplished in 2018 and then areas of focus. And as you look, because we are in March, you will see that on some of these items, we are already beginning to address those as part of our work in 2019. But take that, certainly we won't spend time at the board meeting tonight looking over it, but take that, and if you have any questions or want clarification on anything, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to help clarify. But lots of good work happening at Clinton City Schools. We've got good people that are working hard. So any questions for me?
KK, don't you just love the color?
I love the color.
It is magnificent.
Let's all hold it up and let Danny see. Just,
All right,
that concludes my report.
any further questions for Kelly? Does anybody other than Danny have any business to come before the board?
I would like to share a story with you, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is actually about empty bowls again. Just a great thing. I had a parent send me a message. Their family had a death the week of empty bowls, and you know when that happens, you're just so pulled this way and that way. The next week, her daughter came home and mentioned her bowl to her mom. She had forgotten all about it, but when the student went back to school, her teacher had bought it for her, and she told me that story, and she was so thankful for what we have here, and I was too. It's a sweet story.
Yep. Empty bowls is such a special, and I know they shared out the individual school totals, but in total between what we gained from the bowls and then the food that we actually, because they brought food to the event, and so the donation that we made, it went through Second Harvest, but it actually went to First Baptist Church because they partner with Second Harvest. But about $6,000 was what we were able to give Second Harvest. So to say that our kids use their time and talent, and our teachers use their time and talent to give back to a program who gives so much to us throughout the year is just a special thing.
And Joey's bowl was phenomenal. Did everybody see Joey's bowl? And your bowl was just exceptional.
Joey's bowl was phenomenal. It was.
And so was
It
yours.
was. I did a loss of $5 this year. I was a little sad. Last year it went for 40. This year mine went for 35. But I'll keep trying. Huh?
At least it went.
At least it went. At least it went. I've decided next year I'm gonna make mine when Joey is up there making his, and we're gonna partner together. I'm gonna partner with Joey next year.
And the llama bowl at South Clinton, that was amazing. The art teacher did the llama.
Oh. We had a sixth grader that did, and you had to really look at it to be able to tell. But when you picked it up, it was a basketball net. And he had made the net perfectly to where it sat and did not wobble. I mean, it just sat sturdy. And it was of a basketball going through the net.
Really?
And it was the most amazing. It was just, we have some very, very creative children.
Any other business comments? Hearing none, I'll declare this meeting adjourned.